Every employee, save the top 3 managers, gets rated by a supervisor. As elsewhere, people complain about their ratings, but here, people compete against each other for their grades, even the managers.
I've never gotten as high a merit rating as I deserve. I always deserve more than what I got. I'm rated just like everybody else is.
And you honestly have never been rated as highly as you should be?
No, I always deserve more. That's how I think everybody feels that way. And I feel that way. I think all the guys who work for me feel that way. There's only so many points to go around, and you use it as a motivational tool as much as anything else.
Of course, there's a downside to competitive grading systems. Loran Jackson has gotten low grades, unfairly, he says, and thus a low bonus, although even he believes in the system, just not how it's sometimes implemented.
Our merit rating system allows the company to control basically half your income and give it to you back at the end of the year. That's kind of the ideal. When a person can have that much influence over your income, he can limit you as to how outspoken you're going to be. He can limit you he can limit your freedom, is what it amounts to. And unless you're willing to take the risk and pay the cost, most people will not speak out.
Jackson's case illustrates how arbitrary a highly competitive environment can seem to be. So does the case of those angry workers finally confronting the soon-to-be CEO.
I started here 15 years ago, and my first full year, my income was greater than this year's income is going to be. Now, another 15 years, I won't be able to afford to pay my Blue Cross.
Let me make one point. The guys out there in the time study and methods group, if we don't continue to make changes and make improvements, we can't be competitive worldwide. We've got people making electrode, in Mexico and China now coming at us, and if we don't continue to get our costs down, those low labor countries are going to whip us.
Yeah, we understand that, but we don't want to have to make the same wages that the Chinese people are making.
Of course, these workers aren't just feeling the effects of the time study man. U.S. factory wages have been under siege for years. The Lincoln system has protected all of these jobs, but not all of the wage gains of the past.
I like to say that give us a 7-man gang, and you can take your 14 best Mexicans, your 14 best Chinese, or your 14 best whatever, and we'll double their production. Amen. 7 men. Amen. We'll double them. I'll guarantee it.
Well, maybe these workers are more productive, but for how long? The company now has a factory in Mexico, and using the Lincoln system, productivity there is rising dramatically. The challenge here is to keep the pay from falling.
You got to show us why. If we're so good, you got to show us why we're not making any money. Okay? That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line.
After the meeting broke up, we tried out on Hastings what had struck us about Lincoln Electric. A dynamic tension between cooperation in the form of profit sharing and competition in the form of piecework, price cuts, and grades. You really are balancing community and competition all the time.
All the time. It is a balancing act, too.
Part of the balancing act is a very narrow pay range. The workers with the time study gripe make between $40,000 and $60,000 a year, without fringe benefits, remember.
How much do you make?
I made a little over $320 last year.
And what's the lowest person in the company make?
I don't know what the lowest is, but the average is, I think, 44, and our top 10 would be someplace in the 70s.
When you look at the pay ratio of Lincoln's top executive to the average worker, it's only 14-1. Again, to put it graphically, that compares with a ratio of about 20-1 in the Japanese economy, somewhere around 100-1 in the U.S. overall. It's Lincoln's spirit of sharing again, in delicate balance with the spirit of competition. This balance makes Lincoln about as persuasive a competitive model as we've run into. It doesn't rely on fashion or a charismatic leader or romantic products. To a business reporter, it's just a hard-nosed, realistic vision of business success. But for many, the Lincoln system may be too hard-nosed. Recently, the company tried to buy a GM engine plant in Dayton, Ohio. GM's closing the plant in the fall. General Motors approved. The International Union of Electrical Workers approved. But Don Hastings insisted that the rank-and-file workers themselves vote for the Lincoln system before he'd agree to take over.
And they voted us down 84% to 16%. And it was just incredible to us that American workers aged around 30 would turn down jobs, guaranteed employment for life, versus 9 months of unemployment benefits. But that happened in an industrial city in our heartland. And that scares the hell out of me.
What could be even scarier, however, is that those workers might see something Don Hastings doesn't. Not just that the Lincoln system isn't for everyone, but that high-wage manufacturing just can't make it in America, given the low-wage competition. And so those GM workers in Dayton, for instance, might as well just take the unemployment money and run. On the other hand, if good factory jobs can be preserved in America, it may well be along the lines of the Lincoln system, in which layoffs are avoided through profit sharing, motivation is spurred by piecework in the grading system, and there's always a dynamic tension between the spirit of cooperation and the spirit of competition.